Hey guys, how's it going? So today we're gonna have like a little bit of a Mother's Day special, and I'm gonna have my mom draw something. I'm gonna try and reinterpret what she drew, and we'll have to see how this goes. She decided that she wanted to draw a fairy. You guys need to be nice to her because she said that she was not a big fan of how it was looking. I think she used to draw quite a bit when she was younger, so I think you can see like more fundamentals than someone who's never drawn before. But yeah, you can just see her starting to sketch out, do some wings. A little bit different of a composition than I thought she was gonna go with, but I think it looks pretty good overall. I messed with the lily pad as well with the wings. I think we can do something cool with that. Yeah, I think this was her first time drawing anything digitally, so there was like that little hiccup to get over, especially when you started digital art. It takes a bit to get used to like all the layers and all the stuff you can do. So here's what her finished product looks like. I'm honestly a pretty big fan of it. I like the more like somber tone that she had going on. I was kind of expecting something a little bit more like upbeat and real like bright, but I kind of like that it's a little bit more serious tone, and I feel like that gives us a little bit more room to work. All right, so here's what we're looking at for the sketch. I did kind of want to redo the pose a little bit. I just felt like it'd be a little bit more interesting if we saw like her expression and if she was interacting with something. So I kind of made it more head-on, similar pose, but just kind of rotated a little bit. Then had like a butterfly laying on her hand because I thought that would kind of fit the vibe a little bit better. And then also I wanted to do a full background. I just felt like with the giant lily pad, it fits like a pretty like fairy forest kind of vibe really well. And when you see the opportunity, you gotta bounce on it. You know what I mean? All right, so moving on to the base colors, I wanted to say pretty faithful to my mom's drawing. So I was just basically just color picking what she made. I think she had a pretty good color scheme going. I like that it's pretty simple. It's nothing too crazy, and it really just helps like and I think it really just helps show like the scene a lot better when the outfit's pretty simple, and then that gives you room to work with the background as well, add more detail everywhere else. Because I feel like if you have like a really complicated background and a really complicated like character design, I just feel like it doesn't quite work out too well. And right now you see I'm just adding some like variation to the skin tones, just add a little bit of blush here and there. Because if you think about it, skin isn't the same tone the whole way. There's quite a lot of variation, and a pretty easy way is just any joint. You just toss a little pink and it honestly looks good enough, right? Good enough for the skill issues that we've got. Just doing some basic shading. I'm going to keep it pretty simple as well. It's going to be a pretty subtle lighting scenario, just coming from kind of all above. Because it's a forest, it's going to be pretty diffused lighting. So I don't want to go too dark with the shading. So that's just one thing I'm trying to keep in mind when I'm doing this. And I'm also not going to be throwing a ton of extra strands in the hair or anything like that. I feel like it's not really the focus of the drawing, so I don't really need to put a lot of effort in there. Because I think that the whole point of the drawing is going to be just to capture the scene and not necessarily have every strand of the hair be accurate. And just doing some basic shading all around as well. For the background right now, I just threw some base colors in just to get some of the basic layout of the background just in place, so it gives me some room to work. And also just throwing some rocks in the water as well, just trying to work with what I got. Not going too crazy, but it is the foreground, so we would have more detail there. And it's not like insanely shallow, so you're not going to see every tiny pebble through the water. But I think in like a fairy forest, it's going to be a pretty clear and clean water. And, I want to show that with some of the rocks poking through. I was thinking about doing just like a big lake and having a ton of lily pads all around. But I kind of decided on just the one main one, and she's kind of like in the middle of like a spring. I feel like that kind of works a little bit better. And then I also wanted to toss some vines around as well, just to help add a little bit of depth. I'm not going too crazy detail in the background because it's in the background. You're not going to be seeing that. And I think I could go a little bit further with highlights in that, but I didn't want to like set the lighting of the scene off. And for this one, I really want to go pretty in depth on the background. Normally I kind of like avoid my responsibilities there and just skip it or just spam blur and hope it works out. But on this one, I want to do a little bit more detail. I wasn't going to go too like insane just because I don't think I have like the scale set to do that, but I wanted to really show some more depth in this one and kind of challenge myself a little bit. I think I had quite a bit of fun with it, mixing like the different aspects, because like separately I was learning how to do the rocks, and then separately I was also learning how to do like the brush and stuff, and trying to like put them all back together into a kind of cohesive thing. It was a challenge, but I think I had quite a bit of fun. That's kind of one of the things that's also one of the things I feel like trips people up when they only practice and don't like actually put it into like a full drawing, is that you don't know how to apply what you've learned. And I think that's a pretty important step when you're practicing. Now, granted, I'm kind of skipping some of my practice quite a bit, so kind of ignoring that first step, but I think you get the point. One thing that I did feel like was missing with the background was it felt kind of flat. There wasn't enough dark values going on. So I was adding some like kind of line art to some of the lily pads, some of the stuff up front, and then also adding a multiply layer with some extra shading as well, just to help kind of clear up some of the shapes. Because it was looking a little muddy. I wouldn't be too mad if it had a little bit of like a bloom effect, but I didn't want it to be on accident. I wanted that to be on purpose, because I feel like it's different if it looks muddy because of skill issues versus muddy on purpose. I was still doing a little bit of detail behind where the character sits, just so it looks natural when it flows off. It's not like looking all weird and condensed because of the character. But one thing I was having some trouble with as well was getting the wings down. I felt like it was kind of hard to get that detail that my mom added in her drawing. She had like a little pattern in the wings. I wanted to have that, but so what I decided on doing was just like a pretty saturated dark blue and just kind of lightly go over the outside and then do a little pattern with that. And I think it turned out pretty good. I don't know if that's how I'm gonna do it from now on. I don't really draw a ton of like transparent wings like that, so I guess that's just something I'll have to workshop in the future. But I think overall it turned out pretty solid, and I'm pretty happy with it, to be honest. Alright, and here's my mom's and here's mine. I'll finish up next to each other. I think we made some pretty good drawings today. I think my mom killed it for not drawing that much, in her life. And I think we did pretty good on my end with the background as well. I feel like that kind of added to the drawing. But let me know what you guys think about it and what you want to see me do next. I'm pretty open to ideas, but that's all I got this week, so peace.